Hello. Welcome back to, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. I almost forgot my intro. Welcome back to Geeks Watch. Today I want to talk about the Amazon Prime, is it Amazon Prime? I think it's Amazon Prime, uh, series Fallout, based on the Fallout game series. For those of you who don't know, the Fallout game series takes place in a post-apocalyptic American wasteland, which centers around people who were raised in vaults, like Fallout shelters underground, who then have to emerge into this post-apocalyptic wasteland. Or some of the characters are born on the surface, some are born in the vaults. But the main premise of the story is between, you know, the vaults, the surface dwellers, and this irradiated wasteland full of mutants and mad and just awful people who have had to survive. In the TV series, you have, the vault dwellers and the surface dwellers and others. So the main characters are Lucy McLean, who was born in a vault. She is very perky, very chipper, very cheerful, very competent, fairly naive. She was raised in a vault, and as the story suggests, she has to go to the surface at some point. You also have Maximus, who is a squire of the Brotherhood of Steel, basically a group that tries to preserve pre-war technology. And there is the Ghoul, who is an irradiated mutant who has been alive for a couple hundred years. This series takes place approximately 240 years after the nuclear war, with Lucy and her family in the vault having no knowledge, apparently, of the surface or anything that goes on in it. They have this idyllic lifestyle where they all wear these blue and yellow jumpsuits. It's just so campy. There's this like happy, like Leave It to Beaver style attitude of the vault dwellers. Just everything's awesome. We're all so happy. Isn't great? We all live here. It's all wonderful. And when the surface is good enough to live on, we'll come out and help rebuild civilization. The best way I can describe this show overall, the way I've been describing to other people, is that it's what if Mad Max was directed by Tim Burton. Because it's just so campy and over the top, and the humor is both subtle and campy and over the top at the same time. And that's the thing that surprised me, is they really captured that tone. They properly switched the tone from grim and dark and gritty to humorously campy very easily. They transitioned that very, very well. I really appreciated that from the story. Lucy coming to the surface, having to learn about life on the surface, that things aren't as nice and clean and happy and chipper and friendly as she is used to. Maximus having been raised on the surface, and his journey in being a squire in Brotherhood of Steel, and the Ghoul, who we do not see quite as much of in quite the way we would expect. His story is revealed through flashbacks, whereas Lucy and Maximus's story exists in real time. They do at some point interact with each other, and the interactions are good. I like the interactions between Lucy and the Ghoul the best. I really like their characters. Maximus is okay. He doesn't ruin it for me. I find of the three, his character is the least likable. But that doesn't mean he's completely unlikable. It's more the way he's not likable in a way that you can understand. His life has kind of sucked. And so he is not quite a great person. Just not in the way that the Ghoul is. Obviously, the Ghoul's life has sucked. He's an irradiated Ghoul. But he's got a bit more personality. He's fun to watch. Maximus is kind of okay to watch. I don't hate him of the three. he interests me the least. Like I said, doesn't mean he's bad. I did really enjoy this, though. This was a lot of fun to watch. It was just, the humor suits me so well. I have a very macabre sense of humor and a very campy sense, and I can have a very campy sense of humor. I just really got into this. I really dug it. It's almost like this was made for me. Almost. I've given some criticisms of Maximus. Time for the criticisms. Some of the episodes felt too long, like they were too drawn out. They weren't quite as tight as some of the other scenes or episodes were. First episode, even though it's long, is super tight. Really, really good. But then like episodes 2 and 3 kind of felt like they dragged on to me a bit. There is a couple scenes where the set design in this show, all the episodes, is almost always amazing, and I say almost for a reason. There are a couple scenes, only like 2 really, where it looks like they filmed on a soundstage. I mean, and it really looks that way. It looks like a cheap, crappy soundstage, you know, with like a canvas backdrop with a painting on it, and the rest are just set pieces in the room. It's just, really, you have these fantastic overworld scenes where you know some CGI was done, you know some either practical or CGI effects were done to give it this look, and you did it so amazingly that when they don't, it looks like crap compared to everything else. Overall, I think I'd give this an A-. I really enjoyed this. Having said that, I do want to spoil a few things, so I'm going to start spoiler minute now. If you don't want anything spoiled, stop watching. Ready? Okay, spoiler time. I gave you time. Anything after this is your fault. I just want to cover a few things. The first episode, the opening scene, has Cooper, I can't remember his first name, the character who becomes the ghoul. You see him in, like, you know, the 1950s era, being a cowboy at a kid's party. He's kind of fallen on hard times, needs this just to raise money, yada, yada, yada. It's kind of set up. And what really gets me is when the bombs start falling. You know, there's all this subtle stuff in the background where people are worried about nuclear war. The mother at the party is trying to calm people down. Look, it's a kid's party. We don't need to worry about this stuff. All this, you get these conversations in the background that sets up some stuff that lets you know that bad things are going to happen. And then a nuclear bomb goes off. It's like, holy crap, I did not expect it to go off. Didn't expect it to drop the bombs right in the first 5 minutes of the show, because they did. But what gets me is that, you know, Cooper's got his daughter there to help him. He goes to get her a piece of cake, and you see her standing outside the house, and you see this brilliant flash of light reflected on the house windows. Dad comes up and gives her a piece of cake. Nobody else has noticed the flash of light. And you see this little, like, 7-year-old girl with this horrified look on her face. And she, like, holds up her thumb, you know, because the story is that if you can see the nuclear blast, if your thumb covers the nuclear blast, you're okay. And if it doesn't, you're not. And you see her holding up her little thumb with just this look of abject and complete and utter horror on her face. That girl deserves a freaking Oscar for those 60 seconds, because I felt it. I felt that girl's fear. And she's like this little tiny girl. It's like, how the hell did she pull that off? That look of horror and terror. And she's like, is it your thumb or mine? You know? And then, you know, Cooper turns around and you see the same look of horror in his face. And you see these explosions going off in slow motion. At first, it's just the one. And then you see another one go off and another one go off. And he grabs his daughter and runs. Had some problems with the reality of that scene, because, you know, there are the laws of physics apparently don't apply in scenes like this, because they would be totally, completely evaporated. Not evaporated maybe, but they would be dead. Being that close to 3 nuclear blasts, everyone would die. But we know Cooper survives to become the ghoul. So there's that. Second thing about episode 1 is Lucy's introduction. It's nothing but plot exposition. It really is. It's just her telling about herself. Hi, I'm a dweller in Vault 33. You know, I take place in these activities. These are the things I do. And the way they executed it, I loved, because she's actually talking to like the council of the vault to try and she's trying to apply for something. She's trying to apply to be part of the exchange between Vault 32 and Vault 33. So she is, you know, the exposition dump is her giving her spiel to the council. So I really liked the way that was constructed, because normally plot exposition of that nature is kind of boring unless you can find a way to do it well and do it cleverly. And that was very clever. I really liked that. Her brother Norm. I really hated Norm in the first episode. He's a coward. He's a whiner. He's really set up to be this complete, just annoying douchebag. And, you know, they telegraph a lot of things. They telegraph that something's going to go wrong. You know, when the Raiders make their move after the wedding, Lucy gets married to some dude. Turns out that, you know, the Vault 32 people aren't really Vault 32. They're Raiders from the surface who start killing the Vault dwellers. That's telegraphed. That's, you know, we completely see that right off the bat. But Norm's character takes a turn in the series, which I really wound up liking him more than I expected to. You know, Lucy leaves to go find her father. Norm stays behind because he says he's a coward. Then things don't look right to him. He realizes something is going on in these vaults that people aren't telling him. And he starts to dig into it. And he becomes, oddly enough, one of my favorite characters. Actually, most of the characters in the film are my favorites. The characters are just so fun to watch for the most part. Not all of them. But you know, switching from the Vault to the Brotherhood of Steel, Maximus's story. Not really invested in it as much, but you believe it. You know, these people are fanatics. They're going for pre-war technology. They say to preserve it, but really they want to hoard it for themselves. They're not nice people at all. You know, Maximus is bullied. He was adopted by the Brotherhood as an orphan, as a kid. So his life has kind of sucked. And he takes some dark turns, which he eventually pulls his way out of. But yeah, he's still kind of a douche. Was there anything else I wanted to mention aside from that? Excuse me. Feels like I sucked up a piece of lint there. Nor Maximus, the ghoul. The ghoul. We get his story. Man. Is it gone? No. See if I can swallow some spit. Is it better? It's better. Okay. Whatever piece of lint I sucked up seems to have moved on, I hope. The ghoul. Howard Cooper. I think it's Howard Cooper. We get the backstory of the 1950s years through his flashbacks. And it tells a lot. It tells about the history of Vault Tech. More than I think has been revealed in previous games. And Bethesda, the company that makes the game, which I think is Bethesda, I haven't looked it up, they say that this is canon. This is official part of Fallout lore. So, yeah, we learned who dropped the bombs. It was Vault Tech. Vault Tech decided to wipe the surface of the earth clean to make money for their investors. Because if you're building bomb shelters and no one drops the bombs, it's a waste of money. Can't get people to invest in your bomb shelters if no one drops any bombs. So they dropped the bombs. That's a big spoiler. But you know who he was then, a dedicated family man. wife he loved dearly, successful career as an actor in Westerns, wife who is an executive at Vault-Tec, loves his daughter, loves his dog, loves his horse, has great friends. But it's also 1950s, and the government is wildly accusing anyone who disagrees with the government as a communist to try and discredit them. And there's so much good backstory there with Cooper, and learning out that his wife is one of the people at Vault-Tec who is making horrible decisions. Don't leave that till the very end, though. Lucy and Norm at the end both pretty much discover that Vault-Tec is a huge scam, and that Vault 33 itself is a huge scam. The Vault Dwellers are just there, not really as a major experiment, but like just as a breeding pool for civilization. Not sure what else I can say. I liked, oh, one more thing that I wanted to mention before I sign off, before I end this thing. Lucy is her very optimistic, chipper self, and like I said, very naive. She has her catchphrase, okie dokie, which she says a lot throughout the series. But as the series progresses, as she becomes, as the people on the surface treat her poor and poor, as she gets backstabbed and attacked and lied to over and over and over again, her okie dokie becomes a little less cheerful each time. If you're to watch them in a continuous stream, her first okie dokie is pretty happy. Her next one is like, okie dokie. And her third one is just like, okie dokie. And her final one is just, just defeated. Okie dokie. It just, the surface world just grinds her down as she learns more and more unpleasant realities and unpleasant truths. I like that little thread line through the series. I really did enjoy this, even though I gave it an A-. Mostly because there were just some scenes that, like I said, I felt they dragged on too long. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching. As always, if you like this, I got nothing for you. And until next time, good hunting.